It's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Life in the Movies podcast. I'm one of your co hosts. My name is Ryan Cam. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. This week, Jacob and I are going to be doing a brief rundown of everything that happened at D23. A lot of Marvel, a lot of Star Wars, a lot of Lucasfilm discussion incoming, and we'll also be talking about Jessica Jones Season 1, Episode 10. But first, I got to introduce my co host, the one and only Jacob Martin. Jacob, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty good. It's always a pleasure to be part of this weekly podcast series. Ryan, thank you for having me be a part of this, co-hosting with you and talking about what we love, movies, announcements on movies, and everything like that. I just enjoy what you do every week, getting these videos recorded, set up, edited together. You're an awesome dude, my friend.
Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate you saying that. Well, before we do get into the show proper, let's run down some things that we've been watching lately. I see on your channel, I forgot to bring it up last episode. How's Downton Abbey treating you?
Downton Abbey's treating me all right. I think I'm in the middle of season 2 at the moment. Some pretty interesting stuff along the way. I think the last episode I watched, you start to see some of the ramifications of World War II as Matthew and William get injured pretty bad. Worse off for William as he pretty much took the big bullet and he pretty much went out in the way. I'm like, oh, I thought he was one of the side characters. I thought he'd hang out a little longer, but sometimes war does some bad things to people. And then Matthew ends up being paralyzed afterwards. I'm like, okay, I'm curious where that's going to go too. So there's some really interesting stuff at play. I think what's been impressing me the most so far with Downton Abbey is how much, even though there's like a ton of characters in Downton Abbey, I'm so invested in a good chunk of the characters to the point where it doesn't matter how many characters are in there. For the most part, I just want to see what happens next with these characters in these different situations and environments.
Yeah, it what really works about Downton Abbey, like you said, it's the ensemble. There's not one person that you're rooting for and the rest you can forget about, or two or three. At a certain point, at least for me, I got so invested in pretty much everyone. Whenever it would cut away to someone else, I wasn't checking my watch like, all right, can we just get back to the Matt and Mary stuff, please? No, it was all interesting, and there was always something going on to move something forward. People should really study continuity and just general pacing from Julian Fellows, because that dude really had it on point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The more the series is going along, the more I'm genuinely invested in every character, even the characters that annoy me, like Thomas and uh, Mrs. Bates. I mean, I still want to see what happens to those characters because some of them can be foils to characters I like, and I just enjoy seeing, I guess, where everybody is in the show, regardless of the good times or the bad times.
Yeah, and like I said, keep your eye on Thomas because you may not like him now, but you will by the end. That's all I'm going to say. He starts out the heel, but by the end he is the baby face. That is for certain. Well, anyway, what else have you been checking out?
A recent movie I checked out for the first time for my superhero Saturdays. I finally watched The Crow. And I gotta be honest, I had to watch the movie twice in order to get into it because the first time I fell asleep in the middle of it. And by the time I woke up, I'm like, this movie kind of lost me. I don't know if I truly watch it enough to where I could fully give it a proper rating and stuff. And so I watched it one other time to get my full assessment on it. And I thought the movie was pretty good. It's definitely one of the most visually immersive comic book movies I've ever seen. I don't think there's any movie that's come before or since that looks like The Crow. especially its Gothic architecture and its unique visual style. I like the color grading in this movie. I especially love the use of red in the movie, which I thought was actually really cool. I love the stunt work in this movie, especially, and it had some pretty awesome action sequences. And I thought Brandon Lee did a phenomenal job at playing the main character, Eric. It's a shame that the tragic accident happened because I think if he still had a career, I think he'd be one of the defining actors even in 2022, especially on an action level. I think he'd be revered with the likes of Tom Cruise and Jackie Chan. That might be a bold statement because I just know him for The Crow, but he was able to do a lot of amazing stunt work and give an emotionally charged performance. It's interesting what would have happened, what he could have done if he had gotten the chance to do it. Some of the villains I thought were a little undercooked, and the kid in the movie kind of hurt the movie a little bit for me. I didn't really care for her that much, but the movie itself was still really good. It's not like one of my personal favorite comic book movies, but I still highly enjoyed it for the visual style, the incredible action, and the emotional performance of Brandon Lee.
I'm sure you probably know this, but guess who the stuntman on that movie was?
I think I read was it Chad Stileski who later did the John Wick movies?
Bingo. And when he directed his first movie, it was a revenge movie. I don't think that that was a coincidence, considering the plot of The Crow and the plot of John Wick. The John Wick might as well be The Crow, but John Wick's not dead, at least not yet. Though I don't think a nuke could take out John Wick if those movies have proven anything.
Yeah, he was also Keanu Reeves' stunt double in The Matrix.
Yes, he was, and he was also Chad in the Matrix Resurrections.
The less said about that, the better.
Subtlety is dead. It's dead on the side of the road. But anyway, what else have you been checking out?
um, I revisited Home on the Range for my Celebrating Disney series, and I want to get this off my chest because so many people say that this is bottom of the barrel worst Disney of all time. As far as their animation output goes, I usually see either Home on the Range or Chicken Little at the bottom of the list. Now, Chicken Little, I can definitely agree. That's a terrible movie. I can't stand that one. Home on the Range, on the other hand, I don't get the hate for this movie at all. I don't think it's an amazing movie or anything. It's far from the best of Disney, but I don't think the movie is that bad, honestly. Like, I like the Western aesthetic of the movie. The characters aren't anything special, but I do like the voice cast that it has to offer. Yeah, Roseanne can get a little grating. I'm not gonna lie, but when she's paired with Judy Dench and Jennifer Tilly, I do like the main trio. Cuba Gooding Jr. is Buck the horse, very obsessed with karate kicking and getting into the action. A little bit self-centered, but the character is still a lot of fun. I love the villain of this movie, Alameda Slim, played by Randy Quaid, who has one of the funniest villain songs, in my opinion, the yodeling villain song. I have always enjoyed that song ever since I first saw it at a young age, and I still like it to this very day. Now, I do think this movie can be a little bit too juvenile. I think that's why people don't like it. It feels like it's geared more toward younger kids than like the general appeal of most Disney films. But I think the movie is just a breezy, fun time. It's only 76 minutes long, including credits. I think it's paced pretty good. I do like the adventure. I still chuckle a lot at some of the jokes. A couple subtle adult jokes in there that are kind of funny. And I did enjoy the overall humor and wacky energy of this movie. I don't really get the hate for this movie. Plus, for a while, it was the last 2D animated Disney film, and the 2D animation rocks in this movie. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
I've actually never seen this one. I've heard nothing but bad things, but now I'm tempted to check it out just to see if those bad things are warranted.
It's on Disney Plus, so
Yeah, I don't really have don't really have much of an excuse. But is that all, or what else you got?
I'll share two more, two recent movies I saw, newer releases. One I saw in theaters this past week was The Black Phone. I finally got to check that out at my Dollar Theater, the new horror film from Scott Derrickson.
What you
I
think?
thought it was I thought it was a good movie. I liked the the whole tension and the whole mystery of the child abductions, and I thought Ethan Hawke was very intense to watch as the grabber. Even though he's in a mask for most of the movie, he still gave an unnerving, creepy performance. And every time, whether you see him in the background or he's the focus of the scene, he definitely got under my skin throughout. And I also really like the child acting in this movie as well. I think everyone gave good performances all around. I did like the tension and suspense sprinkled throughout the movie. There's a subplot in the film involving a character and her psychic abilities. I'm not gonna lie, I was not crazy about that subplot. It just felt like it was too contrived for the story of child kidnapping, and it led to some pretty convenient moments. And I wish it kind of focused more on grounded reality in the situation. I think it would have been like one of my top movies of the year. But aside from that minor thing I have against, I still thought it was a good movie. Not one of my top 10 movies of the year, but I think at the moment it's an honorable mention.
Yeah, the two child actors, the main ones are Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw. Those two were great. I hope they get more work after this because, yeah, for a while before a movie I'm going to be sharing when it's my turn, this was my favorite horror movie of the year. And now having seen all of the Before trilogy, Ethan Hawke has got to be in the conversation for one of the most versatile actors going right now because he could go from something like Moon Knight to The Black Phone, something like Gattaca to the Before movies, like Boyhood, and just he can do all these different kinds of movies, and you don't question it. He just fits like a glove every single time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Every time he commands the screen, whether he's a normal dude or an evil dude, he definitely holds your attention, that's for sure.
And last thing, what else you
And
got?
the last thing I wanted to share the other day on Disney Plus, I watched the Pinocchio remake,
Oh,
directed by Robert Zemeckis.
oh no.
Um, I watched it out of morbid curiosity because one, Robert Zemeckis is one of my favorite directors, and two, I wanted to see if it truly is one of the worst Disney remakes out there. I thought the movie was fine. That's just, I think it's a hot take, but I thought the remake was fine. I like the cast. Tom Hanks is Geppetto. You have to get used to the accent, but I thought he was a good Geppetto. I enjoyed Joseph Gordon-Levitt as a Jiminy Cricket. I really enjoyed his performance, and I thought I wish we had more of the Blue Fairy in the film. That was one of my gripes. But Cynthia Erivo, I think that's how you say her name. I thought she did a good job. I liked the visuals in this movie. Like I thought they did a good job of keeping the classic look of Pinocchio in the original animated film and giving it uh not really changing much except making the character CGI, of course, but still paying homage to the original design and fitting it well in a live action world. I actually did enjoy the visuals overall. I, for the most part, was into this Pinocchio story. There was still a lot of enjoyment value in there, and there was still some heart that I felt in there. With all that said, most of these Disney remakes definitely feel unneeded and unnecessary. And I feel the same way with this movie, especially considering the original Pinocchio is like top five animated Disney movies for me. I don't think it makes the movie bad. It's just there's a better version out there. There's some scenes in this version that just can't compete with the animated Pinocchio, like the Monstro scene, for example, which is one of the most intense sequences in any Disney film. Just felt watered down and lame in comparison, and I just didn't care for it as much in this remake. it's not a bad movie by any means, though. Like people are crapping on it like it's one of the worst Disney movies out there. But even as far as Disney remakes go, I mean, The Lion King 2019 was just an emotionless experience. It did nothing for me. At least Pinocchio, I still felt some heart within the story, and I think it's because you got Robert Zemeckis behind the camera. This one I thought was all right. It's not one of my favorites. It's not a train wreck. To me, it's just fine.
Yeah, this was one that I actually watched just today. I had the day off from work, and so I was like, you know what? It's now or never. And so I did it, and I did not like this movie all that much. And I mean, I don't think it's like worst live action remake. That crown still absolutely goes to Lion King 2019. How do you take like one of the most emotional scenes in animated movie history, the Stampede scene, and have this little tiger cub go, no? Like, Favreau, you need to make another Chef. Like, just make a Chef sequel. Just get away from all of this. But but this movie was still pretty bad in my opinion. It felt like if you gave a robot all the recipes, or not the recipe, but the ingredients needed to make a Pinocchio movie, this is the movie that that robot would make. It just felt like checking off boxes of what a Pinocchio movie needs to be, but it feels robotic. It just feels rather soulless. And I'm not going to sit here and say this is like worst of the year territory. However, this is still pretty bad in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I guess I get that. I think pretty much, I think we can both admit the upcoming Guillermo del Toro film looks like it's going to be the better Pinocchio movie. That's for sure.
Oh, well, it's GDT, so of course it's going to have his stamp of quality right there.
That, yep. So,
And
what have
it,
you been watching?
so it's a bit of a lighter load than last week, but I am still making my way through all the Scary Mania movies I'm going to be reviewing this October. I watched Revenge of the Creature, the sequel to the creature from the Black Lagoon. This movie is actually quite fun because it's actually filmed 45 minutes away from where I live at a place called Marine Land. It's basically a dolphin habitat, but it's literally, if you get on I-95, I believe it is north, I-95 north, and you get on that road for about 45 minutes going to St. Augustine, then you will hit Marine Land. And some of the monuments and the locations have been torn down since, which does make me sad. But when I saw that tank, I was like, oh yeah, that is Marine Land. I've been there. The movie as a whole is not like the greatest of all time, but I admire a couple things about it. Number one, it's shot really well, especially considering in terms of the creature. I mean, it's obviously a dude in a suit, like, and the suit definitely looks like not really all that intimidating through a 2022 context, but it's designed so cool, or the design of it is so cool that it's so layered and textured that I just give a lot of respect to it. And also, I love how short the movie is. It's barely 90 minutes. It's like 80-ish minutes, and it just breezes on by. It's actually an hour and 21 minutes, so 81 minutes. It gets in, it gets to the point, and it gets out. I low key miss when horror movies were short like that, but not the best. But I definitely have a lot of respect for it. Oh, and it's also the film debut of Clint Eastwood. If you watch it, you will definitely notice the hair. It is like this is his first supporting role, and he would have a career that lasts to this very day. So that's at least historical.
Yeah, I've seen this movie once. I don't think it's a memorable movie by any means, but the one thing I do remember of it is that it was Clint Eastwood's first movie. So there you go.
Yeah, and I'm currently watching. I had to stop about a quarter of the way through for something, but I'm currently rewatching, or not rewatching, but watching This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse, which is the sequel to At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul, which is a movie I covered for Scary Mania last year. It's directed by Jose Mojica Marins and is based out of Brazil. And it's basically the main character of the movie. His name is Coffin Joe. He's pretty much a sadist. He hates pretty much everything and everyone. Hates God. Like in the first movie, he hates God so much that on a holy day, Friday, when you're not supposed to eat meat, technically, he eats meat. And not only does he eat meat, he eats lamb in front of a procession of like priests and people going to church, and he's eating it, and he's like, hi. It's like an evil dude. And not only that, but he like does this to people's eyes and plucks their eyes out and tortures women with spiders. It's screwed up stuff. And in This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse, it's funny because he's actually freed of some of the charges that are brought against him from the last movie. I don't know what sense that makes, but I'll have to rewatch some of it. But I have a strange appreciation for just how near the knuckle Marins took this character and his movies. These movies would definitely not be made in the States in any era, but I'm glad they exist, and I'm glad that they're operating on like the fringes of horror cinema, that these hidden gems that I only heard through watching old James Rolfe videos. I'm looking forward to talking about it in October.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any of these movies. They sound whack.
Yeah, they are, especially at Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. It's that title is just one of the scariest in movie history. It's very direct and it's literally on the nose. But
Yeah.
more on that in October. Then I watched Pinocchio, but we just talked about that. And then to wrap up my portion, I saw at the theater Barbarian, and this movie has been getting a ton of hype. And so I went in thinking, oh, this is probably going to be, I don't know what to expect, but I just hope it's as good as people say. And it is, and then some, and more. It's honestly, I can't say anything about it because there might be someone watching this who hasn't seen it. I recommend that everyone go see it. It's better if you don't know anything about it. This movie is crazy. It really is. But honestly, that's what I love about it. This is a great debut by director Zach Kreger. I hope he gets more work after this. Bill Skarsgård is good in here. Georgina Campbell is the standout for me. I don't know if it's a spoiler to say that Justin Long is in it, but he was in one of the trailers, so he is in it. I won't say doing what, but he is in it. And really, this is just when you think you know what this movie's going to do, it changes the questions on you, and it flips 180 once and then it flips 180 twice. It doesn't like become a parody of itself. It takes itself very seriously, and it's all done so well. It's my new favorite horror movie of the year.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but the acclaim for this movie got is blowing me away at the moment. A movie I had never heard of until, I don't know, a couple weeks ago when we did the September preview, and it's currently like the number one movie of the weekend. You're actually doing something right there. So, yeah, I'm going to have to check this one out real soon.
Yeah, talk about a movie that just came out of completely nowhere and is just taking over everything. It's going to be interesting to see what its reputation is going to be in the years to follow, and if there's maybe a sequel, who really knows. It's just going to be interesting. That's all I'll say about it. But what have you all been watching lately? Movies, TV, podcasts, something or other? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. All right, Jacob, well, let's dive into some Jessica Jones talk. Let's talk about episode 10, aka A Thousand Cuts. And this episode, I would I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think this was a bit of a step down in terms of quality. Let me just pull up the description and I'll read it. Read it out just right quick. Right. Episode 10. Here we go. A discovery has the potential to change the entire game if Jessica can refuse Kilgrave's offer. So it's pretty well established, like early in this episode, that Jessica, like our theory, Jacob, Jessica's pretty much immune to Kilgrave's advances or powers, if whatever we're going to be calling it. She's pretty much immune at this point. And I think this is making Kilgrave a bit of a desperate man, if you can agree with me on that.
Yeah, I actually like that plot thread because now Jessica and Kilgrave are pretty much on even terms. And I like seeing the chemistry play off between the two characters. I like the setup of the episode, and there were some really good bombshells. But there were like two elements in this episode that really frustrated me and took me out of it. The first one is the character Samson, who we found out in the last episode was getting experimented on by a mysterious dude who we only saw in that one episode. But then when you see him, he acts super out of character. He goes rogue, kills off the detective, and blows up the lab, and goes and gets pretty violent even in front of his girlfriend Trish. I don't. It just seemed just so random and out of left field that I wasn't really that crazy about his turn. There was just no context behind the sudden shift, and it very much frustrated me, and I was left confused over why they did that without diving into why he would make a change so drastic as that. And then two, the other thing that frustrated me, there's like a mini subplot in this season. Some of the roommates of Jessica, there's like a brother and sister who it was strongly implied that they are a couple, which is creepy. And the brother ends up getting killed by Kilgrave in a couple episodes prior, but the sister doesn't know that and thinks that he's missing. And so this episode, she's going around trying to figure out what's going on. And she does find out the truth that he was killed. But because she hates Jessica Jones so much, is convinced that, oh, Jessica Jones killed my brother. Forget that Kilgrave dude. Jessica Jones did it. And so we're at the big boiling point of the episode. Jessica has kidnapped Kilgrave, has him tied up in her apartment, about to knock him out to get to get what he needs, to get what she needs to try to take him out. But then the sister and an angry mob show up, and the cluelessness of the sister is what causes Kilgrave to escape and caused the big bombshell shocker at the end of the episode. The shocker was good. I like that. I was shocked by the payoff of the episode and the cliffhanger, but the build up to it was frustrating because you had an annoying character that stepped in to mess it up for our main character. And it's a character I don't even care for that much.
Yeah, not to mention that it feels like I was just sitting there watching this and I'm like, did Kilgrave just kind of fall off the face of the earth? Like you were literally in a Kilgrave victims support group that was formed by Jessica Jones. Are you having a laugh? Why do you think that she is responsible for any of this? It just made no sense to me. But without going into too many spoilers, this episode did at least one thing that I liked. It ended off several subplots that I was growing tiresome of. Like
Oh, the Hogarth and her ex or whatever.
Hogarth and her ex, that was definitely something I was happy to be rid of, thank God.
Oh, same here. That subplot got old so fast.
Like, I don't even like that kind of drama when it's a man and a woman. It is just like, work something out, y'all. Just please, for the sake of my sanity. But we won't say what happens, but it's pretty gruesome. That's all I will say. And honestly, Hogarth is one of those characters that I was not super on board with, but considering the fact of her effect on people, I would honestly like to see an episode maybe about her at some point, or not an episode, but like something else, just to kind of explore her motivations. I hope I'm not too off the reservation on that.
That would be interesting because she definitely is tough as nails. She definitely has a lot of shady elements about her. She's definitely done some messed up things, even it's hinted at, even in Jessica Jones. I would be more than down to seeing more of her character, I guess, in her own way. What did you think of the whole Samson thing? Because I was frustrated by that myself.
Yeah, I actually, when you were talking about the whole Dr. Kozlov thing, I did a bit of a Google search and I typed in Jessica Jones, Dr. Kozlov, and I didn't read any I didn't read any spoilers or anything, but it's looking like in either season 2 or 3, Dr. Kozlov does become important. So it's looking like they're planting seeds for the next season, which I don't know if at the time they knew they were going to do a season 2, and maybe they were just doing something like that. But it's Dr. Kozlov is there for a purpose. What that purpose is, I don't know, and Jacob, I assume you don't know, but I
Yeah.
imagine they're just planting the old seeds, hoping they bear some kind of fruit. But it was weird, but I have a feeling, and this is typical of the MCU, what seems small at first will grow into something pretty major down the road. But another subplot that I was just happy that it was over was the whole thing with Hope Schlottman. And again, no spoilers, but let's just say she's out of the picture now. And I'm
Yeah.
honestly I'm honestly surprised that it lasted 10 whole episodes. Like I thought it would have at least lasted maybe like 3 or 4, but not 10. But I mean, it's a good thing that she is now out of there, and it's looking like for the remaining 3 episodes, it's looking like Jessica versus Kilgrave, which is honestly the most relevant and interesting part of this whole season.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jessica and Kilgrave stuff are easily the best. And I already know even before wrapping up, I think there's just too much filler in these middle portions of the first season. There's so many subplots that some of them are interesting, but they went on too long, and you could have easily trimmed them, either in smaller portions or trimmed down the episode size, I guess.
Well, we are coming down to the home stretch. We have 3 episodes left in this season. What did you all think of Jessica Jones season 1, episode 10? If you have seen it, leave it in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. All right, Jacob, let's dive into the main event for the evening. D23 is officially in the books, and I thought it would be fun to do a bit of a rundown of what all was announced. Now, this is not going to be reporting everything that dropped. We'd be here all night, but I thought at least the movie and the TV news would be fun to kind of discuss, and things that were announced or things that we knew about but add new wrinkles for, and the whole nine. So, in terms of live action stuff, and I'm reading this all off from an article from the fine folks at Deadline. Shout out to them; they're doing good work over there. In terms of live action stuff, we got new footage for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is coming out February 17th. More footage for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which actually, I was at the movie theater last night and I saw that trailer again. Just brief side note, that trailer is so cool. Like, it's so good. Like, see, it tells a bit of a story, even though it's only like 2 minutes long. We see the birth of Namor and and Black Panther's mom and her struggles. It's so good. It's such a good trailer.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah, that comes out November 11th, so we have just about 2 months left. Captain America: New World Order. Hogan Hall and Nash walk out of the tunnel. It was announced that Shira Haas and Tim Blake Nelson have joined the cast and starring alongside Anthony Mackie. I'm so happy that Tim Blake Nelson is coming back to bring back the loose thread started in The Incredible Hulk. Hopefully, Brainiac makes an appearance. It was announced that Fantastic Four has its director in Matt Shackman, who is a heavy creative force behind WandaVision. And the Thunderbolts were announced, which I have no real exposure for. All I know is that Sebastian Stan, Hannah John Kamen, who was the ghost character in Ant-Man and the Wasp in the sequel there. I can't think of, I believe it was called Ghost.
Yeah, she was the ghost.
Yeah, and and I believe they also announced that the Punisher would be joining them if my memory serves.
I don't remember hearing anything about the Punisher being part of the Thunderbolts. I remember, I think it was Bucky The Red Guardian, I think, was one. Yelena Ghost, I think, was one. Taskmaster, and I think the I forget the character's name, but the character Julia Louise Dreyfus has played on some of the Marvel TV shows.
Yeah, she was in Falcon and the Winter
Falcon and the Winter
Soldier. I at
Soldier,
least know
yeah.
that. So no Punisher there, but for that Marvel stuff, anything that stands out to you?
Of the ones you mentioned, I like that Fantastic Four has a director. I had some story issues with WandaVision, but nothing against the creative talent. I can't wait to see what he's going to do with the Fantastic Four. I had heard they were going to announce the cast, but they hadn't done that yet. So hopefully, time will tell on who they're going to play, who's going to play these characters. The news of Tim Blake Nelson finally coming back excites me because the Incredible Hulk had so many loose plot threads that was just left unresolved to where it frustrated me in no end, especially with his character. So the fact that they're finally having that payoff in this new Captain America movie, yeah, I'm really excited about that on that casting alone.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, in the Lucasfilm department, they really only had a couple of big things. A trailer for a Willow series, which honestly I have had no real exposure to. I know Warwick Davis was in it, but I have not seen the original movie. I'll have to check that out one day. But then a trailer was shown for the crowd, but has not been released as of this recording. Indiana Jones 5. Now, I haven't really spoken about this in any fashion, but when I heard Indiana Jones 5 was announced, I was like, oh no, because Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I'm not on the hate bandwagon for that movie. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. There's definitely a lot of cringe stuff, but I think when it is good, it is Indiana Jones. I mean, it's one of my favorite series of all time. But the trailer supposedly went over really well with the crowd. Harrison Ford is back, God bless him. And the movie's going to be directed by James Mangold. Logan, Copland, Walk the Line, that James Mangold. 4v Ferrari, that James Mangold. I'm very nervous, but they've got some good elements going. I don't know. I guess I can describe it as cautious optimism. If Jacob, I don't know if you can echo that.
Yeah, ever since this new movie was announced, I've had my reservations, but at the same time, I'm still intrigued because Indiana Jones is such an iconic character, and I feel like, especially after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which again, Ryan, I'm with you. I don't hate it. It's easily the weakest of the four. There's some underwhelming stuff in it. Definitely not a good swan song. If this is a good swan song for Indiana Jones, I think it's going to be something special. And I've heard nothing but incredible things about whatever trailer that dropped at D23. I have a feeling this could turn out to be a strong, great gem if it turns out very well. So I am actually cautiously excited or optimistic, like you said.
Mangold did direct Logan, which was the swan song for Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and that movie kicks all kinds of ass. So I'm optimistic, but cautiously optimistic because Harrison Ford is kind of an old man at this point. I mean, I love him. He's awesome, but lest we forget he's nearly 80 if memory serves. I know he's in his 70s.
I think he is 80.
So it makes me nervous, but if he is excited about it, then I mean it's something. I mean, and literally Harrison Ford's default mode when he smiles is this. So if he's excited, then that's clearly like it's a where there's smoke, there's fire situation.
Uh,
Anyway, moving down the road, we got more footage of Avatar: The Way of Water, which that teaser trailer is so good. I don't know how you feel, Jacob, but that trailer still gets me, especially that song and Sam Worthington's line of "This place is our kingdom." It's so good. I'm secretly pulling for that movie. I hope that it's at least good.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the first Avatar, but I love the trailer and the visuals for that movie. I'm hoping at least the sequel has a better story to match with the incredible visuals. That's all I'm hoping for Avatar 2. Obviously, I'm still going to see it no matter what.
I'm definitely seeing it because at the theater that is literally down the road from me, that opened December 16th, 2009, the day Avatar premiered in theaters. So Avatar is very precious to me because I link that with my theater that I've worked at, that I have been, I think I've spent more time there than even in the house that I live in, if that makes any sense at all. But it's very precious to me. I will be there opening night, or I will try to be there opening night at the very least. Moving down the road, it was announced that we're getting a prequel to The Lion King called Mufasa. Not sure how I feel about that, but it's going to be directed by Barry Jenkins, the director of Moonlight. So again, they at least got a competent guy in the director's chair.
Uh, well, then again, the last Lion King was directed by Jon Favreau, a competent guy who did Iron Man. Just because Barry Jenkins directed it, I'm not too hyped for it because the last live action Lion King movie sucked. So I don't have too much hype on this.
And then we got the trailer for the live action Little Mermaid. I think I should get under my desk just to be safe. But Jacob, what did you think of this trailer? I thought it was fine. I don't know what
I,
people are so upset about.
yeah, I think because you have an actress who looks nothing like the original character, and people are hyping on it and harping on saying, "Oh no, you can't do that. You can't be WOKE in my house. That's garbage." I don't care about that political crap. I just watch a movie for what it is. I don't care about the casting as long as you pull the role off and make your own stamp on it. That's all that matters. And from the few seconds I saw Halle Bailey, especially when you hear her sing "Part of Your World" at the end of the trailer, I thought she nailed it. I'm really excited to see how she's going to handle the character. Now, it's weird saying that because it's a live action remake, and to me, they're pretty hit and miss. But you got Rob Marshall directing this one. I've liked some of his previous films. He also did, well, I wasn't that big on Chicago, but it's still a well crafted movie. But he also did Into the Woods and Mary Poppins Returns, two Disney musicals I actually really dug. So if he goes 3 for 3, then I think he's an awesome musical director. We'll see how it goes. I like the visuals from what we saw in the trailer, and Halle Bailey, the few notes I heard her sing, she was phenomenal. And also, there's new music written by Lin Manuel Miranda. I don't think he's had any stinkers just yet. So I think this one could be a win-win.
Yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda hasn't struck out yet, so I have not been the biggest fan of The Little Mermaid. I'm clearly not I'm not the demographic for it. I have a lot of respect for it because of how it was made and during a time where Disney pretty much needed a miracle if they were going to survive. I remember talking with my friend Rachel from Rachel's Reviews off air. She was telling me about how Jodie Benson told a story about how when they were making it, they were boxing things up. Offices were being closed. Like it was literally we're either going to get this to be a hit or we're going to go broke, which is crazy to think about, especially in terms of Disney in the year of our Lord 2022. But it was a tough situation. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with this new Little Mermaid going down the road. But for Disney Plus stuff, we got a new trailer for Hocus Pocus 2, which is dropping September 30th. We got the first trailer for Disenchanted, which is a sequel to Enchanted, which, I mean, I forgot that movie even existed, to be honest with you, but nice to see Amy Adams back. And then I believe we got a poster for Peter Pan and Wendy, which is being directed by David Lowery, he directed an actual Disney live action remake that I really enjoyed called Pete's Dragon. So, if anything else, I am excited for that. What else stands out for you, Jacob?
Of the ones you mentioned, Peter Pan and Wendy, I think has a lot of potential. Not to mention, besides Pete's Dragon, David Lowery also directed The Green Knight, which I thought was one of the hidden gems of 2021. So I think that one has a lot of great potential if the movie embraces his creative vision. What else was one that oh, another one that dropped on Lucasfilm. They dropped the trailer for season 3 of The Mandalorian. As
Oh
someone who's
yeah.
loved the previous 2 seasons, season 3 looks like it's going to be awesome as well. It looks like it's going to be focusing more on the clash between the Mandalorian and Bo Katan and some of the people in the land of Mandalore, which has now been decimated. And that's a conflict I just cannot wait to see explore. I will say, after Book of Boba Fett, after much thought, I wish they left Baby Yoda alone. I liked it better when I think they undermined the season 2 finale where they left. He was supposed to be training with Luke, and now he made the decision to go back the Mando, I think, kind of undermines season 2, in my opinion. We'll see how that goes going forward, but I'm still excited because The Mandalorian is one of the best Star Wars shows, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next season.
Yeah, I have been outspoken about the Disney Plus shows and about how disappointing they've been, but Mandalorian has been the one that has stuck the landing every time. I enjoyed both seasons equally. Well, in the animated film department, we got the lead actors for Elemental, Pixar's new film that is going to be released June 16th of next year. Looking forward to that. Announced was, I believe it's called Elio, Elio. That's going to be another Pixar joint starring America Ferrera. Uh, we got sequel time, Inside Out 2. This made the convention for me. That announcement, I was like, Pixar, you have done the right thing by announcing Inside Out 2. And then we also got a new trailer for Strange World and a new trailer for Wish, which I know, Jacob, you're personally excited about.
Yeah, Wish really excited me too. One, because it's time to reflect upon the 100-year anniversary of Disney as a studio. So I think that's a good idea to do a movie centered around a certain object that's prominent in a lot of Disney movies, the witching star, and do like a whole story surrounding it and a new princess played by Ariana DeBose, who I thought was amazing in West Side Story. And two, when they announced the style of animation for this movie, they're doing old school watercolor 2D animation mixed with 3D animation. I think in the background, if I'm not mistaken, and this is the first feature film that's doing that. They did a short about 10 years ago now called Paperman, which experimented with CG backgrounds with more traditional animated characters. And that is one of the best Disney shorts of all time, in my opinion. It was played in front of Wreck It Ralph, if I'm not mistaken. I'm excited to see this style of animation in a full-on animated movie, and if it goes over very well, I can see it being a continued game changer in how animated movies can look going forward. So there's a lot to be excited about on this upcoming Wish movie. I'm also hyped for Inside Out too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting because that movie came out in 2015 and it's going to be 2023. So that's going to be 8 years.
Yeah,
And
I think I've read. There's a synopsis I saw that said it's going to focus on Riley as a teenager.
they left off with a tease of this little box and like, what is this called? Puberty? No, we won't be able to touch that. I'm like, oh, just you wait. So it's
Yeah,
gonna be
I think my only concern is they announced a different director. Pete Docter did Inside Out, who, in my opinion, is the best director who's done Pixar movies. He's also done Monsters Inc., Up, Soul, all fantastic movies. But I guess now that he's the head of Pixar, I don't think he's able to direct as many movies since he's supervising the studio now, which is kind of disappointing. But if he still is able to share some input on the sequel to a movie which he personally made, I think it could still be a great sequel.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm holding out till I see a trailer because I mean Pete Docter, he runs the studio now. He can't be Michael Jordan be a player and a coach. He had to make a choice and he made it the choice to run the studio, which I think was a pretty wise move. Moving into TV stuff, Marvel bringing out a lot of new announcements. Season 2 of Loki. Shout out to Ke Huy Quan, who is short round and was in Everything Everywhere All at Once. He's joining season 2 of Loki. That's a good get for that show. We also announced Ironheart Secret Invasion, which the trailer dropped for that. It's going to be interesting. I hope it's not a one off and they actually like bring in a whole big old scroll type of thing into the MCU because it was played out in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes and I loved that. So if they do it on the big screen, yay, that's a big old plus. Also announced was Armor Wars, Echo, Daredevil Born Again, which was announced to be a reboot and not a season 4, which makes me very sad. But I mean, it's Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio back together again, so that's at least something. And then Werewolf by Night, which is going to be a Halloween special dropping October 7th. So, Jacob, anything stand out for you?
There's a lot of exciting stuff, and a lot of those. I like the trailer for Secret Invasion, which just dropped. I like the conspiracy vibes that it brought in that trailer. But the biggest surprise to me was Werewolf by Night. I know nothing about the source material, but the fact that Marvel's doing a Halloween special shot in black and white, made to look like the classic monster movies. That actually excites me. I'm excited to see that come Halloween.
I don't know if this is going to be folded into the continuity or if this is just a one off, but honestly, it looks like my kind of metal. So I'm going to be definitely checking that out. In the Lucasfilm department, Mandalorian Season 3, which Jacob, you brought up, we got the final trailer for Andor, which I'm thinking is looking quite promising. Anything with Stellan Skarsgård has my heart. Season 2 of Star Wars The Bad Batch, which I need to watch season 1. My dad has watched it and I haven't, which I don't know how that works, but there you go. And then Tales of the Jedi, which I actually have not seen this trailer, but from what I heard, it went over very well. Anything stand out for you, Jacob?
Um, I will say the Bad Batch. I thought it was a good show. I don't think it's as good as some of the other animated Star Wars shows, but I did like the first season, and I hope like some of the other Star Wars animated shows. I feel like with each of the animated shows, each of the series gets better after the first season. And I hope it's the same with the Bad Batch. Tales of the Jedi. I don't know if you know anything about the series, Ryan, but it's like I think 6 episode short. They're played like short films from what I saw in the trailer, and it's going to be centered around expanding more about characters that expanding more about characters that were just kind of hidden in the past. There's one episode that's going to be centered on Count Dooku, and we're going to see Count Dooku as a Jedi trained by Qui Gon Jinn, and we're going to see how he slowly turned. That excites me because I think Count Dooku is an underrated character, and I want to see more of his backstory, which we're finally getting. And I think there's another one centered on Ahsoka as well that I'm excited for. She's one of my favorite characters in Star Wars.
Dude, Count Dooku's one of my favorite Star Wars characters, period. Played by the legendary Christopher Lee in the prequels. And I believe he voiced him in Star Wars The Clone Wars, which they did so much more with Dooku in that show. And I'm so glad for that because he's awesome. I love me some Count Dooku. So it's going to be really cool to see that origin story. And I'm definitely looking forward to that one now that you've told me all about it. This is just general TV stuff now. I believe this is all Disney Plus, but we're getting another Muppet show called The Muppets Mayhem, excuse me. Getting other shows, American Born Chinese, Big Shot, Iwa Ju. I'm probably butchering that, and I apologize to all of you. But what stood out to me was two things. National Treasure, Edge of History, and the Santa Clauses. Now let's tackle this in one at a time. National Treasure, Edge of History. It's kind of sad that it looks like Nick Cage might not be in this one. I was hoping for a National Treasure 3, but it's got Harvey Keitel in it, and it looks quite interesting. So I'm going to be checking it out.
Yeah, I do plan on checking this out. I am disappointed that we did not get a National Treasure 3 with Nicolas Cage, but I do hope if this series goes over well, maybe they can make a follow-up movie where this series and then Nicolas Cage can cross paths. That's what I'm hoping in the future. It's cool we got Harvey Keitel back at least to kind of bridge the gap. And I think that there's a lot of potential with this series. I hope it's really good.
Yeah, I agree. And then we got announced a couple of holiday specials, which I'm sure is going to make Rachel very happy. The two that stuck out for me was Pentatonics Around the World for the Holidays, which I love me some Pentatonics. I think they're very talented. And then the Hip Hop Nutcracker, which is the Nutcracker redesigned by Run DMC's Rev Run, which I'm actually quite a fan of Run DMC. So this low key kind of intrigues me, Jacob. I don't know about you.
Um, they're probably going to be all right. I think I'm more intrigued with the Pentatonics one because they're a fantastic group. But let's get back to the Santa Claus series. That show, I am so looking forward to that. You got Tim Allen back as Scott Calvin, and it looks like it's going to be the bookend to his story where he's going to retire from the role of Santa Claus so he can spend more time with his family. I don't know if you saw the teaser trailer, but it was actually legit funny. Tim Allen has not lost his touch. I am really excited to see what they're going to do with this series, and I'm going to be watching it day one.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people who don't like Tim Allen because of his politics, which I just think is a dumb thing to not like someone over. I've always loved the man. He's like comfort food to me. Like no matter what mood I'm in, I just flip on something with Tim Allen and I'm just immediately at peace. And I've brought this up in my Santa Claus review for 25 Reviews of Christmas last year, but Tim Allen, when that movie came out, he was on top of the world because that movie was number one at the box office. Home Improvement was the number one comedy on television. I believe he had written a book at that time and it was a number one bestseller. And he had released a comedy special or a comedy album, and that was number one as well. So Tim Allen had the golden touch in like the mid 90s. Anything Tim Allen related, it was a hit. So it's nice to see him back, and I hope that the Santa Claus is really good.
Yeah, did you see the trailer?
I actually did not.
Oh, oh, I can't spoil the joke then because there was a funny joke on somebody auditioning for Santa, which cracked me up so hard.
I will watch it off camera, but I have a feeling that it's going to be good.
Yeah,
But
they got Bernard is going to be in the show.
all right, you have my attention.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm excited for that because I missed him in the third one.
all right. Well, I was actually watching a clip from the John Campea show earlier today and saying that this D23 was a bit of a disappointment. None of Jacob, we weren't there for the actual convention, so we can't really say that. Rachel was, and I'll have to ask her when we record next week. But just based off of what I've read in this show, do you think D23 was a disappointment?
Well, I can't really say that because neither of us were actually there. We're just looking at based off the announcements. A lot of the announcements I'm excited for, so I can't really say it was a disappointment, even though I wasn't there. I think it's interesting seeing how that factors in. I guess just casual fans who just watch the announcements versus the diehards who go there to see it live. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know either. For me personally, there was at least four or five things on there where I was like, I will be watching that day one. So if nothing else, it has that going for it. Disney has some delicious offerings coming. We're gonna be eating good for the rest of this year and into next year, in my opinion. But what did you all think of D23? If you watched it or caught up on coverage afterwards, leave it in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. And what all are you looking forward to from the stuff that we just read? I think if I had to maybe to give a rough like top three, I think I'd have to say Mandalorian season three, National Treasure, and Inside Out 2. Again, that's very rough, but that's the three that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Inside Out 2, Mandalorian season 3, and either Werewolf by Night. I gotta highlight that one. I'm looking forward to that one.
Right. Well, that's another episode in the books. Thank you all so much for watching. Jacob, it's a pleasure to do this with you every week. Tell the people where they can find you.
They can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can also check out my 2 YouTube channels. My second channel, Storytime with Jacob, is where I do the book reviews and read-alongs. I'm currently rereading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I just started that book this week. Been a great start so far. And over on my main channel is where I do all the movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, all that fun stuff. Some recent videos that dropped on my channel. This past weekend, I did reviews for Home on the Range for my Celebrating Disney series and The Crow for my Superhero Saturdays series. You can also check out our past live stream me and Ryan did where we talked about 16 blocks. That was a fun time. A video that just dropped at the time of recording this video, I did a double bill review where I reviewed 2 of Ivan Reitman's films, Father's Day, starring Robin Williams and Billy Crystal, and 6 Days, 7 Nights, starring Harrison Ford and Anne Hesh. May she rest in peace. Some other videos coming. I got a live collab with Esley from Entertainment Fanatic Reviews. We'll be covering Apollo 13. I got another live stream coming later this week where I'll be ranking all 22 of Richard Donner's films from worst to best. And I got another Superhero Saturday, no, not Superhero Saturday, but Celebrating Disney video coming this week where I'll be covering Hocus Pocus in the run up to number 2 coming out. So those are some of the upcoming videos coming on my channel. Feel free to subscribe and share your thoughts on these videos down below if you want to check them out.
Jacob's channels will be linked in the description. Go subscribe to him. He does deserve it after all. And as far as this channel goes, I'm going to try and have a Pinocchio review up in the coming days. As of this recording, I'm aiming for Tuesday, but I will try to have it up by then. And then this episode, of course, and then I'm going to try and have reviews up for, at the very least, Pearl, the X prequel, and also, let's see, because there's actually quite a few movies coming out this weekend. I'm considering either seeing The Woman King or See How They Run. I think I'm going to have to make a gut decision on that one. At least those two. At the very least, Pearl and either See How They Run or The Woman King. I'm honestly excited for both. So if you have not checked me out, please do so. That's Jacob Martin. My name is Ryan Cam. We will see you in the next one. Take care.